Welcome back to K24 this morning. A very interesting conversation happening here, of course, talking about the sad state of affairs as far as politics is concerned. Chaos over the weekend, 2 individuals lost their lives, 21-year-old and 15-year-olds. Honestly, what is happening? Let's look at our question of the day as we look at some of your reaction. What institution can ensure national cohesion? What institution can ensure national cohesion? Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, across all networks at K24 TV. And of course, right there on the screen is our WhatsApp number. Speaking of which, let's see what you are saying. Maybe BBI is creating a wrong impression, but greedy leaders don't care. You can't order a tree you are on to be cut. The BBI team is only doing politics, only that they are coated with the idea of uniting the country. We ask them, who said we ain't united? Are these leaders who aren't united trying to unite us? Who is fooling who? Thanks to free education, most Kenyan youths are educated now. National unity is now a matter of individual concern. No leader in Kenya now can lead us to unity when themselves are fighting. This is Nehemiah Orina watching from Kisii County. Thank you very much, Orina. Good morning, Buvi. Say hi to the panel. You know, the problem is our country's double speak right from the top most politician. Now, you ask someone to stop political rallies, and even before the sun sets in the full glare of the media, you do yours, and guess what? You want Kenyans to believe you are you're anointing angels? Let people sell their agenda freely and anywhere as they watch the tongues. This is Kenya Bwana. Danson Moreti from Maralal. Thank you very much, Dan. Governor Waria must be summoned for hate speech. He incited people in his press conference. Okay. And our question of the day is, what institution can ensure national cohesion? Speaking of which, there is actually an institution for that particular purpose, and it is known as the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission, which is the government agency tasked with ensuring that the country has cohesion, making sure hate speech is at a minimal, and actually prosecuting some of these people and identifying them, prosecuting them as well. Joy, you have mentioned while we were on break that this is an institution that is just meant to be there for the name of, for the sake of the name, but it doesn't do anything.
It does something, but what they do is not effective.
Okay.
Because when it was established as a constitutional commission. And of course, the drafters imagined that there would be a commission that is tasked with, for example, checking the politician's speech, listening to what the people, even the general population, are talking about, calling out incidences of hate speech, but over and above that, would be undertaking activities to actually promote national cohesion. Now, they do absolutely nothing about it, but now you have BBI that comes to say that it is doing what the National Cohesion Commission is supposed to do. But you have to ask yourself, why is it that they're not able to do that which they're saying they're supposed to do? First and foremost, they have a very tiny secretariat. They do not have the staff that they need to be able to carry out their mandate. So you have commissioners, yes, but you've got a lean secretariat of about 40 employees. In a country of over 40 million, of 50 million Kenyans, okay, so exactly where are 50 people supposed, and you're counting this is plus the drivers and the people helping to clean the office. Even if
the commission is that small?
Yes, it is that small. I was listening to then Chairman Kaparo, who was saying, you know what, the entire commission, the staff, everybody, we are no more than 35. I think since that time they have added a few more people. Secondly, the way they carry out their work, they don't have investigatorial powers, for example. They can gather evidence, but they still must hand it over to the police to analyze and decide whether they take the file to the DPP so that somebody can be charged. So you find, for example, what was happening with Sudi. It becomes a very protracted thing because it's, oh, we have these recordings, give the police, they decide whether this is evidence, then they decide whether they are charging. So they're not even in a position to enforce that which they've been asked to do. But over and above that, name one incident where you have seen, any one event that you have seen, the National Integrity, the NCIC, holding a cohesion event or a cohesion exercise. So it's one of those commissions where we had a very grand idea when we were writing it into our constitution, but for all intents and purposes, like our appendix. It's part of us, but we don't really need it. We can really do without it because other people are not only doing better than they at their job, but over and above that, we have seen that whenever they come out, their impact is almost negligible. So we need to rethink, should we give more resources, do a more robust law to give them more fangs like we did with the EACC? Or do we leave them where they are right now and just, you know, hope for the best?
Justice Maina, let me just ask you again on that particular question of the NCIC. Are they an appendix that we really do not need? Should we abolish them and probably come up with a better government agency that is actually going to be effective? Or should we empower the current NCIC?
Mbuvi, in the first place, in a functioning democracy and system, we would not need such a kind of commission to tell us that we need to be cohesive, that we need to integrate. I mean, those are the basic principles of any functioning society. So the very essence and the very presence of this commission in itself presupposes that
all right, Justice, I seem to be losing you there. Okay, Justice, just a minute as we focus on fixing that sound issue. But Arnold, I'll ask you the same question. This appendix, do we need it? Should we fix it? Should we, like, what should we do with the NCIC? Because clearly it looks like it's just there getting taxpayers' money and then nothing happens.
Well, if your hand is sick, do you cut it away? Every time we are sick, we treat ourselves.
Right.
We have never killed ourselves. Now that I am sick, the easiest way will be for me to die. I do not think that is the way to go. I think we really need to fix the nation. We need to fix the republic. Of course, the republic simply being that we are a public matter, we are a public concern. But a nation meaning that now the issues of cohesion, being a nation that is cohesive, united, and we have got common goals and aspirations. We are not. Like somebody said, we are a republic, but we are not yet a nation. Also, just as talks about us being, these things not being from a country that is a democracy.
Right.
He's right. You also need to actually understand that we are an aspiring democracy. We are not yet there. It's a process. We are moving to that particular end. In any case, it takes about 50 years to actually have a culture. That's why it's very impossible for us to look like our ancestors. It's very difficult for us.
But Kenya as a republic is over 50 years old.
No, but a culture. The republic, like I said, is a public matter. There is a form of governance around here. Somehow there would be a government. There are ways we are conducting public affairs. We have got a framework of engagement when it comes to the management of public affairs. But a nation means it's beyond the government. It's beyond us sitting here and talking. It's about having common aspirations, having common dreams. Do we even consider ourselves Kenyans in the first place? We only consider ourselves Kenyans when we are winning marathons. Immediately we don't win marathons, we remember the athletes' tribes. We are only Kenyans when we are fighting an outsider who has probably trolled us. So the things that bring us together are not the things that make a nation, are not necessarily things that build up. So the building of a nation is a process that we will have to actually take up for quite a while. It's not one man's burden. It will have to get on moving. So talking about NCIC, for example, in this country, there has been the habit of coming up with nice reading policies, not necessarily good policies, just nice reading policies, and then shelving them so that we give it the feeling like we are serious about a case when we are not. We also love when we know that there is a mechanism that is needed to take care of an ill. But deep down we know that we can actually benefit from that mischief and that ill. We come up with a dysfunctional mechanism, put it out there, and it doesn't work. We have got a very good Chapter 6. That Chapter 6 never functions because somehow the guys who go to Parliament have consistently ensured that they do not put the spirit into the letter. When it comes to legislation, it doesn't work. I will use the same example that is actually probably threatening MPs with going home. When we added Article 177 to take care of the county assemblies, that, for example, Nairobi has got 85 wards. If the people of Nairobi insist that they will elect men only, then we will bring in about 24 to 30 women to balance off and ensure that the new number has got a third of the other gender. When we left out the issues around Parliament and left it to Parliament to decide, that has not been sorted. In the county assemblies, courtesy of Article 177, it's taken care of.
The numbers are sorted.
I can tell you, if we had left it to Parliament to take care of it, it would not be working today. we can bring in CASs, the Cabinet Administrative Secretaries.
Right.
The number of CASs we have is the same number of women MPs we need in Parliament.
Okay.
We need relatively about 40 to 47 women extra, and we will be sorted. But we can bring in a lot of people, because when the president comes to power, if you do a sum, he employs about newer people who are on contract, about 2,000 to 3,000 people. Are we not really able to bring, and some of them really get high salaries, are we not able to bring in women? We don't. So you come up with a mechanism like NCIC, it doesn't work, and even if it was working, you bastardize the leadership.
Okay.
So you bring in people who are beholden to you. So they will not work, they will always be looking up to you. So it's a common way, it's just a matter of our bad manners as a people. Of course, we bring in bad people and we are complaining. The same people who are now complaining about the leadership today, you wouldn't speak to them since in 2016 and 2017. You will not. If you try to tell them, okay, guys, you're making the wrong mistake, they wouldn't listen to you. So the bad manners, number one, as voters. Number two, the leaders we have. They are a representation of whom we are. I know people say that it's like victim blaming, but isn't that the truth? My people, from where I come from, will tell you that even as you chase away the mongoose and curse it, also ask the chicken, what was it doing out at that particular time in that particular corner?
So questions to be asked across.
So it's both ways. It's not one way. So, but we must consistently tell the people that we have looked at the mirror and we have seen our enemy and he is us.
Yes.
But we are also the solution.
Justice Maina, thank you for coming back. BBI has, or rather the report will be released in a couple of days, according to what the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga said. Do you think that it will offer any different scenario in the hotly contested campaigns?
I don't think it will assist very much, because as severally we have said, and I've had my colleagues in studio say, the problem with Kenya is not the problem of the constitution or the legal framework or even the policy framework.
Right.
The problem is the bad manners. The problem is the ethos. The problems are we have bad culture. So I do not think that BBI and its subsequent amendment of the constitution will cure the maladies bedeviling this country. I do not believe, because it is the same politicians, even in the manner in which the BBI is being conceived, it is being personalized. Wherever you go, you hear the Raila Odinga and the president as if nobody else exists. So even the design and the conceptualization of BBI in itself is almost a selfish agenda. And of course, you can begin to feel that BBI itself has polarized the country. BBI has divided the country into two. And therefore, I do not believe, honestly, that BBI is a panacea to all the problems bedeviling this country. The manner in which the politicians carry around themselves and carry around their politicking will not change at the instance of tabling of a document called BBI. So in my submission, I do not believe that BBI is going to cure the problems, the political problems, the cultural problems, the ethos, the values that are bedeviling this country. So I want to insist that we need to go back to the basics, the moral values. In fact, the issues facing this country majorly are basically the moral values. Do you try? If I make a commitment, can you take that commitment to the bank? Can I make a commitment today and tomorrow you wake up and I still I keep and honor the same commitment? Can I make a commitment that I make this undertaking and that is what I'll say in the next 10 years? In fact, you have seen even the people who are, opposing and those who are proposing, those who are embracing the BBI and those who are almost rejecting. Their position have shifted, almost diametrically opposed position. So definitely as a country, what politicians pursue are intrinsically the self-preservation politics. Today, those who champion the fight against corruption today are speaking a different language on almost embracing the very vice they have fought for a very long period of time. Those who are accused previously of entrenching and championing the vice of corruption today are the ones championing or at least looking like they are championing the fight against corruption. So therefore, in this country, I do not believe that there is a document that we wait that will fall down from heaven that will suddenly come and cure all our problems instantly.
Okay. Joy, do you feel as though the BBI is going to give us a different scenario to this particular hotly contested campaign?
There's a yes and a no to that question. There are conversations that were started in the BBA process that we need to carry on. So like just as where he left off, questions about national ethos, shared prosperity, about just having that conversation about where we are as Kenyans and where we ought to go. Those are conversations that don't need any constitutional change or any politics or any. It's just a matter of saying, hi, how come we are where we are and how can we move away from here? Now, that's a conversation that I think Kenyans should push forward. Forget about even what happens with the entire documents and the drafts. What BBI started in that conversation must be explored, because part of the problem of where we are right now is because we don't tell ourselves the truth. We sugarcoat it, we develop scenarios and narratives and other things, but can we just sit down, take off the masks and say, you know what, we have terrible manners. We call theft corruption, we reward mediocrity with even bigger positions. We misuse what God has given us, and then we cry foul and ask for help. We live beyond our means. Those are conversations that have started, we need to carry on.
Right.
But then, like again, just as I was pointed out, there's aspects of BBI that honestly we can do without. If you remember during BBI 1, the political rallies had started getting to a place where they were also polarizing. They were actually a source of conflict. And I attended one or two of the rallies. When you had the consultative part, there was some discussion. But by the time you got to the stadium, it was really, you wondered why you were doing it.
Yes.
Because by that time, it was different rhetoric, it's the dancing, it's the reggae, it's the what, until the point of the conversation was lost. So if we are going to be successful in BBI 2, one of the things we must do, and this has been a criticism of the process when it started, it ought to have been from the bottom up. Now that, okay, fine, the politicians have started, they must listen to what the people are saying. Right now we have the reality that is COVID. Can we really talk about BBI without talking about where people have been the last 6 months, what they have been through? Can we really talk about the state of our economy? We're in a state now, I think we are growing at 1.5%. That's almost no growth. Can we really afford where we are headed? We are talking about children going back to school. These are conversations that, in my opinion, let's separate the important from the urgent. These are more urgent to Kenyans than the politics that is BBI. So there's the conversations that we can push forward, but then there are the things that we must divorce. But let me just touch on a question you asked Arnold earlier about what can we do to help the national cohesion. First and foremost, one of the things we must understand with national cohesion, like I said, it's not a responsibility of an institution. It's a Kenyan responsibility. But for the commission itself, one thing that we can do, it can be empowered to work with the National Intelligence Service, because as Arnold pointed out, if the intelligence services were aware of an impending attack, why did they not ensure that the information has gone out and it was forestalled before time? So if the National Cohesion Commission can have direct access to the use of intelligence services, that would help their work. Secondly, they need some form of investigatorial powers like the EACC has, where they can dig a little deeper to get evidence. Right now, they're left at the mercy of writing to media houses, please share with us that clip, or going around in the market asking, did anybody hear this politician saying this? Are they willing to come and say it in court? With suffocated stuff. They have to get a little bit more boots on the ground to get the work done. But over and above that, the enabling statutes also needs to give them some form of prosecutorial powers, where they should be able to actually forward file to the DPP's office for consideration without having to rely on the police. Because as it is right now, they have so many gatekeepers. Honestly, by the time you're getting to where you need to go, you've unlocked like 4 gates. It doesn't make any sense. Because it's either that, or let's just bite the bullet, have an honest conversation and disband it. Because quite frankly, we are at a situation where there's too much, Shakespeare, what did he say? Too much ado about nothing. We are at a place where there's a lot of activity, a lot of energy, but the product is almost nothing.
Now we have about 3 minutes before we come to a close. So Arnold, I will ask you this one as we close. Do you think poverty is actually bringing a lot of this polarization? Because, you know, we can blame the leaders here and there. We can blame BBI. We can blame campaigns in Central. But if we get back to the root cause, if these people had things to do, they wouldn't show up and they probably wouldn't even be hired, as we've had, to, bring about chaos.
Yes. Poverty and crisis are actually intertwined. The tapestry between poverty and crime and conflict is one you cannot tell apart, because poverty in itself is a crisis. There is no peace in poverty. There is no unity in poverty. There is no love in poverty. There is no reason. We have had a lot of civic education, but very little political education. What we need at the moment, honestly, is a lot of political education. So we have got a lot of activities, quote unquote, that talk about civic education. What you know about how to cast a ballot and stuff, why you are casting, how important is the vote, what does it mean? Those are quite heavy stuff that we don't talk about. So poverty does largely contribute to this, because for the bigger part of it is that busy people, you are not in Muranga because you're here working. No one could not reach you. No one could reach you because, number one, you couldn't take 300 or 1,000 shillings from anybody else. Being here was much more meaningful. A few young people, even bringing in underage, like 15-year-olds, that is child labor, abuse. It's like bringing in children, as in child soldiers. We already are getting to levels where we shouldn't even be getting. So it's out of poverty. See the people who died, where did they come from? Even in Thika, what particular settlements they come from? They came from very poor backgrounds. So, but then Joy says that the motive of BBI might not be good, and of course, I will go back to Philippians 1, 15 to 18, when the Bible says that some people, it's true that some people preach the gospel out of envy and rivalry, but for whatever cause, Christ is being preached. The reason why I'm actually saying that is that whatever motive BBI is about, there are some good things in BBI. Some other people would actually be doing BBI because for them it is a promise for them to ascend to power. But BBI carries with it the promise of a better Kenya. It has got an element. We just hope that they will not sacrifice that particular better part and then for their own interests. So if BBI carries the promise, then probably we should think about supporting it. But if BBI primarily then comes out and we realize these others are just the meeting before the meeting. So, as in the reason before the other reason.
Yes.
If you're going to do the critical factor analysis, so that times 5, by the time you get to the fifth one, then you get to the issue. So, it's true, we are not going to have concurrence. Consultation does not necessarily mean concurrence. So, even as we consult, we are not going to agree on everything. So, we are not looking for concurrence. This is politics. And I know the politics of compromise, the politics of the handshake, the politics of negotiation and peace are very boring. Those politics are very boring. There is always the need to have somebody actually opposing something for whatever reason. Because some people actually are opposing BBI so that they grow politically. That's how you then demonstrate that I have arrived.
All right, just as also your closing remarks, 40 seconds, maybe tell us, do you see or do you predict a future where we will have chaos-free campaigns, whether it's the DP going into Central or Raila going into Rift Valley and so on and so forth?
It depends majorly on the police. And the biggest challenge in the country is that Kenya was conceptualized as a private entity. The foundation of Kenya, it was founded as by the British East African Company. So I think the original sin of this country is that it was conceptualized as a private entity. And my biggest worry is they continue to become the appendage of the ruling class. That the work of the police is like the colonial era. The work of the police was to protect the whites from the blacks. And today, when you see how the police carry themselves, it is as if the work of the police is to protect the ruling class or the ruling elites from the masses. So it depends majorly on how the police are going to carry themselves and whether there is this perception that they are independent, partial in the manner in which they carry out their duties and ultimately ensure that, because cohesion is not about an institution. It is about the decisions of the president in terms of appointment. It is about the decisions of the governors in terms of appointment. It is about the decisions of the ministers and the PSS in terms of distributions of resources and projects in the country. So cohesion as a country does not depend on any institutions called NCIC because it depends majorly on how the country carry itself as a unified solid state in terms of distribution of both infrastructure and the ordinary resources to the country.
Thank you very much, Justice. And that is where we come to a close. Joy, 10 seconds maybe, closing remarks going forward, chaos in the country. Are we looking at this going forward, or do we need to cap it before things get worse?
As a country, we have lived through post-election violence. We are surrounded by neighbors who have had civil strife, who have had problems in the past, and we have seen what it can do to a nation.
Okay.
Let us not take peace and stability for granted.
All right.
Let us stop with the political games and the machinations, and let us hold those culpable to account.
Okay.
And I like what the IG says. Let's do the investigations, let's conclude them, and let our politicians learn that Kenyans are not their pawns. We are not in a chess game. These are lives of men and women, and they need to treat us with respect.
Okay.
But moving forward, let us take care of our peace, because that's the only way we move forward as a nation.
Indeed, and that's where we come to a close. *550*4#. That's how you get your people daily for only 10 shillings. And of course, you stand a chance of winning yourself 250 bob worth of airtime. Well, we come to a close on this discussion. However, do not go too far, because the next discussion is interactive, coming up next with Alan Abinadab, Shikoka Itani, and myself. Do not go too far.